Hi, everybody. I'm May, the co-founder of Writer, an AI writing platform for teams. We are doing a series of tutorial videos with Jimmy from Superpath to teach folks how best to use Writer for content acceleration.
Cool. Next, May, we're going to talk about creating blog posts, which is something we teased in the prior video. I think this is like one of those areas where AI actually maybe gets a bad reputation because people have this expectation that you can give it minimal input, like one keyword, and then expect a 1,500 word article back. And then when that doesn't work very well, they say like, oh, AI is not that great. This isn't very good. So I'm curious how you approach this, how Writer handles this kind of thing, and what kind of training needs to go into it to make sure that you're getting good outputs.
Yeah, awesome, Jimmy. Great question. So we are not about Frankenstein content here. So this is definitely not, a blog post from keyword land at Writer. So let's talk about first, like what comes out of the box right now. You go to writer.com and sign up. What comes out of the box, and then we can talk about like the kind of training and fine tuning that more advanced teams use. Let me share my screen and kind of walk through a flow that's really typical for folks who work on top of funnel content. So we have an SEO brief. Innovation Refunds is an amazing, very innovative customer who's done amazing stuff with Writer. And so this is, very typical to the kind of brief that folks will get either from their agency or from a tool or from a content strategist or an SEO strategist. So in Writer, we've got 2 posts that help folks write blog posts. So there is blog post, just to generate generate content from a headline, a summary, and specific sections. But for folks who have this type of briefing work done, we highly recommend starting with the much more detailed blog post builder. And so let me show you and walk you through what we can do with this. So let's say we've got here a title on a long tail keyword for the employee retention tax credit. So actually a pretty competitive keyword. My SEO keyword here is employee tax retention credit. So I let Writer know that is what I'm optimizing for. And I get Writer's outline first. So Writer will automatically say, I think you should, based on this SEO keyword, set up a blog post that's got these 5 sections. So what it is, why is it beneficial? How do you know if you qualify? How do you apply? And what are some common mistakes to avoid? Now, when I go into my template here, I've actually got a bunch of secondary keywords. Now, in this particular template that I've got, I don't have some of the H2s and sometimes H3s that I might have. So I'm going to make some of those up, but I'm going to walk folks through how you can get as granular as that H2 and H3 in Writer. So I like all of these. And when it comes to let's see these secondary keywords, I'm actually going to click key points next, and then put them into the H2s manually. So I like that order, very chronological and complete. And Writer is now going to take that outline and create an even more detailed outline. And so this is where information gain gets added. So Writer is going to take the first pass at the information gain. And what our content marketing customers do is it's at this stage where the stats, the incremental information gain relative to other pieces that are ranking for that content, and where their secondary keywords come into play. So let's read this together. So what is the employee retention tax credit? So that was that first bullet, that first section, right? Because we didn't edit what Writer suggested. It breaks down into a paragraph about what it is, right? Who it's for, the details of like what wages it repays, right? Very specific on the tax, the fact that it's refundable, right? And it's available for both nonprofit and profit employers. Then here I can, by the way, add a point, edit any of these or move any of these to be in a different order. If actually I want to say the negative thing before I say or after I say the positive thing. In the second paragraph, I actually think this is a repetitive point, so I'm going to remove that, and that will happen, right? Like as you look at the logic, you might be like, well, writer, like this is maybe overlapping logic, or this feels too specific to a point that we've made already, and this is where AI helping people write first drafts, like this is where the rubber meets the road, because like if you're not correcting kind of that logic and actually steering the AI, you're going to get stuff that you have to kind of over edit and overfit at the drafting stage. And so this is where the bulk of what the work needs, what work is needed for a great blog post happens. So people go through point by point. If I hate all of these points, by the way, I can actually just regenerate all of them and get a second set of points to engage with. So you can see actually that it rephrased a couple of them, but it kept them largely the same, because it's still like very much we are in a very basic kind of territory in terms of like, there are only so many things that you can say about just like the overview of that tax credit. So quotes, stats, logic, secondary keywords all get added in here at this point. You can add additional points. You can regenerate all the points. You can change the order of them. You can add completely new ideas. And then we create our draft. So like in a writing process, whereas, you know, kind of the traditional way of writing goes from brief to outline to then sort of like painstakingly going paragraph to paragraph. This is a bit of a different flow of like, you kind of do all of the logic and that detailed outline first, and writer really strings the ideas together in a holistic way. So
that's cool. I appreciate that it's an iterative process.
Yeah. Yes.
Because it forces you to think exactly as if you were writing it, except faster.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And we've got folks who then will like some paragraphs, like some sections, bring it into their editor, then go back and generate others. So it definitely is really helpful. Now, the simpler way, and you know, this is like, certainly for SEO, you want to use Blog Builder. Absolutely. But let's say, you know, you're writing something for an internal blog, or like a SharePoint, or like something internal, and you know, it doesn't have to be as you're not gunning for those SERPs. The simple Blog Builder is really easy too. So like, let's say let's actually go back to the Intuit Resource Center. And say I've got, this is all quite SEO specific too, but maybe this one, just as an example. So in my editor here, this is my headline. The summary is, help small business owners develop business plans, and then we're going to have sections around why it's important to have a business plan, the essential elements of business plans, and then maybe like how to get the most out of your business plan. You know, basically like, you have a business plan, now what? And let's see, you know, this might be interesting for folks to see, how smart writer can be. And of course, you can add another section, you know, kind of the default is sort of that 3-paragraph format. And so, you know, I'll use this one when I'm really trying to get a shorter blog post, or, you know, we're introducing a team member, or, you know, just trying to get like 400 or 500 words of content in a much faster period of time.
I like that. I'm going to use this to write the blog posts that accompany these videos on the Superpath blog.
Oh, amazing. I love that. So check this out. You know, this is like by no means, you know, not dense and not great. You know, it's not nearly as detailed, and, you know, there aren't H3s in this blog post. Now, Jimmy, you asked me at the very beginning about training. And so, this is exactly where for larger teams, so let's say teams that have got 5 to 10 content people, and a lot of our customers look like that. The blog posts they write for their internal employee brand sites, for example, like look and feel a certain way. They are a certain length. They always have a quote from the employee and the person's team. They always have information on, how to join that team, for example. And so the training allows us to take example content and actually fine tune that same template. So we've got customers who will then have, in addition to the blog post builder that comes out of the box and, this generate a blog post from an outline, it will be things like, the Cover My Meds internal employee blog, or the UiPath internal, X and Y, Qualtrics comms A, B, and C. So, it's the even just the titles of the templates reflect what people are actually creating in a more regular way, and the content is reflects what the business is regularly trying to produce in a more specific way than what comes out of the box.
Yeah. That's really cool. Really interesting. I feel like I have a much clearer understanding of how you might go from generating some ideas, putting together a brief, which almost everybody does for content, the iterative process of like building the piece, the structure, the feel of it, and then actually getting an article, which I would imagine, I would imagine some teams, they take it, they do some editing. Like you said, maybe they put some sections of it back into Writer until they refine it to the point where it's exactly what they wanted. I guess I'm sort of harping on this idea of like, it's not magic. Like you have to, the inputs affect the output. And in an interesting way, I feel like the inputs are sort of your custom stamp on all of this work, right? Like your own insight, subject matter expertise.
Absolutely, yeah.
All the kind of subjective things that are sort of hard to quantify. That's your opportunity to put that stuff in the writing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost like it's really 2 levels of inputs. It's like very tactically inputs as in what does the user put in the left side of, this interface. And then there are inputs, capital I, right? And we're going to talk more about this. Your brand guidelines, your terminology, your brand voice, what you use to train Writer. So it really is a next gen of thinking about content in this like very scaled way. And we've seen folks just really turbocharge the impact that content can have on the entire marketing organization when it's like the marketing team that is really spearheading thinking about content in this more, scaled way. Love it.
And speaking of turbocharging, the next thing we're going to talk about is how to get the content to your readers. So we'll talk a little about distribution in the next video, and we'll see you there. Okay, cool. There you go. Thank you so much, May, and your team over at Writer for being such a great partner to us at Superpath. You're building an awesome product. We really appreciate you spending time to help us get up and running with it. And frankly, your support is what helps us keep this community free. So we really are grateful for that. For those watching, if you do want to learn more and give Writer a try, go to writer.com. There's a couple of different plans you can choose from. There's also a free tier if you just want to kick the tires. So writer.com. Thanks so much for watching, and thanks so much to the team at Writer for your support. Take care, everybody.